fare payment, such as a Presto card or any other means that we can use. And we are working on improving the existing routes as part of our work, and we have been doing that all the way along. So I'm going to call the question on the balance of the minutes.
Point of order. I lifted an item, but I think I reserve the right still to speak to the balance of the minutes, and I wasn't recognized for the opportunity.
You didn't reserve that right.
Yes, I do.
No, you didn't.
Okay, through you to the clerk, when I lift an item, I still get to speak to the balance of the minutes.
You said you reserved, and I said, no, you didn't.
I wasn't recognized, Chair, to speak to the balance of the minutes.
Do you have something to speak to?
I'd like to speak to the transit study, Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a question. We heard from the consultant that the consultant will have no position or opinion on even though it's recorded on page 2 of an integrated fare strategy, to provide or propose a fare that will accommodate. Councillor Redekop talked about the outer core geographically. We have an outer core economically too, who can't afford to spend 10-15% of their weekly earnings on transit. If the consultant isn't going to be looking for this, and we're asked to defer that, Councillor Volpatti and myself, this motion for a cheaper fare for our less privileged. We talk about housing and homelessness. Who is going to be doing that if the consultant isn't going to be doing that? Through you to maybe the Commissioner of Public Works.
I didn't even understand the question.
We deferred the decision, Chair, on reducing fares for the less privileged. I asked this consultant, is included in his review of a fare strategy, a fare for the less privileged. He says that's not in his mandate.
Right.
So if it's not in his mandate, who is going to be doing that so this doesn't get thrown under the bus and we end up with this program and recommendations, and oh boy, we forgot about the less privileged. Who's going to look after them?
Commissioner?
Through Chair, it's not in the scope of the current undertaking, presuming that this undertaking results in some new form of transit service, consolidated or otherwise. It'd be one of the steps forward in that entity, or for that entity.
Thank you.
Okay, so Chair, is it in order then that I have to add, or will it be staff direction that they include it? Because I will add to receipt of...
We're not doing policy on the fly. We've got a mandate. We took a mandate from council on the IMT.
Who gives you the approval to take down a motion? I'm adding an amendment. You don't have the right to strike an amendment down, Chair.
Councillor, I am not accepting it.
You're not accepting it.
I'm not accepting it.
Can I ask you to the clerk?
Please sit down.
You don't have the right to make me sit down. Last chance? Give me last chance.
Last chance, otherwise I'm going to ask you to leave.
You're going to ask me to leave because I'm asking for an amendment?
Because you're not participating in a business-like manner. If you don't sit down, I'm going to ask you to
add
leave.
An amendment to the presentation that we make a consideration for a fair strategy that includes servicing our underprivileged. And you're telling me that I'm not
accepting it.
You're not accepting it?
I'm not.
That's absolutely atrocious.
Sorry.
I'm challenging you, Chair.
There's a challenge on the floor of the chair, whether we should be accepting Councillor Petrowski's amendment. Please, if you want to uphold Councillor Petrowski's amendment, please vote yes. If you, sorry.
Chair, as a point of order, I believe this very issue we've already actually as a council voted on, and we deferred it to the IMT committee. So we can't take another motion on it because it would be a reconsideration.
I agree with you, Councillor Baves, and this is the trouble that we get into when we start making policy on the fly. We start making decisions that don't make sense. We double up on things that we've already taken care of, and we start talking about business that we've already dealt with. So, Councillor Petrowski, I'm accepting Councillor Maves' opinion that we've already dealt with this.
We've heard from the Commissioner, no one's dealing with it, notwithstanding Councillor Maves' interpretation.
Commissioner?
Thank you, Chair. And that's not what I said. I would suggest, similar to Councillor Maves, this has already been contemplated. It was a direction of council that it be considered. It's not a part of Dylan's work, but it will be considered with the either the IMT steering committee or the new entity that's formed. So it's on the table.
Perfect, Chair. And my question was, if it's not being considered by Dylan, who will? And I thought I heard from the Commissioner, no one will. So now I heard someone will. I'm happy.
Thank you. I'll call the question on the balance of the minutes. All those in favor? Opposed, if any?
Recorded motion, Chair, please. I'm
not going to accept that anymore. I'll accept it this one time. If you want a recorded motion, you're going to have to ask for it before I ask for the vote. Otherwise, I'm not accepting it for the balance of this meeting.
Okay, point of order,
Procedure on the
Mr. Chair.
fly.
The bylaw says before or after a vote.
Well, Councillor, to simply be disruptive in doing that is irresponsible, and I won't accept it. Please open the vote when you're ready.